Hello, friends. Today we explore a seemingly ordinary gathering that masks the weight of hidden truths. At the center of this story is a family dinner where conversations dance around pain, leaving wounds unaddressed. As the facade of warmth crumbles, what lies beneath may be more terrifying than we can imagine. Let's begin. The dining room was softly lit, the golden glow from the chandelier casting flickering shadows on the walls. But the warmth it offered felt distant, almost mocking. Alex sat at the long oak table, a plate of untouched food before him. The clinking of forks and the murmur of polite conversation around him, merging into a dull, suffocating hum. He could feel the tension hovering in the air, thick and palpable, as if the very walls held their breath, waiting for something unsaid to break the surface. His eyes flicked toward Lily, seated across from him, her gaze fixed firmly on her plate. She wore a mask of composure, but Alex could sense the knots of anxiety tightening in her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hand as she raised a forkful of food to her lips. They exchanged a fleeting glance, and in that moment, an unspoken question lingered between them. How long could they continue to dance around the truths that haunted their family? The conversation shifted to Grandma Rose, who was recounting a story from her youth, her voice warm and inviting. But as her words flowed, Alex's mind drifted, the memories of past conflicts swirling like autumn leaves caught in a storm. The family photo album sat prominently on the table, its leather cover worn and familiar, a testament to the shared history that everyone avoided discussing. It was a relic of their family's legacy, yet it felt more like a cryptic tome of buried secrets, each image encapsulating a wound that had never fully healed. As laughter erupted at the far end of the table over some trivial joke, Alex felt a pang of bitterness rise in his throat. Why was it so easy for them to forget the fractures, the simmering resentments that lay just underneath the surface? It was as if they were all actors in a carefully choreographed play, reciting lines that masked the chaos of their true emotions. He closed his eyes for a brief moment, trying to drown out the noise, but the echoes of their laughter felt like daggers, piercing through his resolve. Each chuckle and cheer was a reminder of the family they pretended to be, a facade that grew more fragile with each gathering. The internal storm within him churned, a mix of anxiety and longing for understanding. "Alex, would you like the recipe for the roast?" Grandma Rose asked suddenly, breaking through his reverie. Her voice was gentle, but he could hear the weight of expectation behind it. The question felt loaded, a quiet nudge toward normalcy, as if she believed that sharing a meal could somehow mend unseen wounds. "Maybe later," he muttered, unable to mask the strain in his voice. The words fell heavy, and the table fell silent for a heartbeat, the air thickening with unspoken words. He glanced again at Lily, who shifted in her seat, her expression unreadable. In that moment, the distance between them felt like an abyss, one lined with unvoiced grievances and years of hurt. Alex's heart raced as he felt the urge to bridge that gap, to reach across the table and pluck the thorn from their shared history. But the chasm of silence held him back. As the evening wore on, Alex's thoughts turned into a whirlwind of questions. Why did they all avoid open conversations about their pain? Were they too afraid to confront the truths that lay nestled in the shadows? The family photo album beckoned him, a silent cry for recognition, but he felt paralyzed, caught between the desire to speak and the fear of shattering the delicate facade they had built. The tension ebbed and flowed around the table, a living entity that pulsed with the unacknowledged wounds of generations. As the clatter of dishes resumed and laughter filled the room once more, Alex remained a silent observer, grappling with the inner turmoil that threatened to spill over. The air was thick with questions that hung unasked, and he couldn't shake off the feeling that the cycle of unspoken pain was destined to repeat unless someone dared to break the silence. The therapy room was softly lit, a stark contrast to the storm brewing within Alex. He sat on the edge of a plush chair, fingers nervously tapping against the leather armrest. Morgan, a calm presence, observed him with an understanding gaze, a gentle smile curling at the corners of her lips. Books lined the walls, their titles whispering promises of healing and introspection. But Alex felt as if he were standing at the edge of a deep abyss. "I want to talk about inherited trauma today," Dr. Morgan began, her voice steady yet imbued with warmth. "It's a concept that many find hard to embrace at first, but it can profoundly influence our relationships, especially with siblings." Alex's skepticism tinged the air like a thick fog. He had come here under the weight of familial tensions, not to dive into the murky waters of generational pain. "Inherited trauma? I don't see how that applies to me," he retorted, crossing his arms defensively. "Our family just—" He hesitated, searching for the right words. "We just don't know how to communicate." Dr. Morgan nodded, unperturbed. "That's often the case. Communication is stilted when pain is buried. And sometimes those patterns are passed down without us even realizing. It's not uncommon for siblings to carry the weight of family secrets, feeling the impact of unresolved issues from previous generations." The tension in Alex's shoulders tightened. He didn't want to confront the potential truth buried beneath years of silence. Yet, there was an undeniable curiosity flickering within him, a flicker of interest that pushed against the walls he had built. "What do you mean by patterns?" he asked, his voice less certain, the defensive edge softening just a little. Dr. Morgan leaned forward, her expression earnest. "Think about the dynamics in your family, the unspoken rules that govern your interactions. Often, what we don't address becomes part of the fabric of our relationships. It can create a cycle. Pain begets pain, and without awareness, we pass it on." Alex felt a knot tightening in his stomach. Could there be something deeper? Something he had overlooked? The image of the family photo album flashed in his mind, its pages filled with smiles but heavy with hidden sorrows. He picked up the therapy journal on his lap, its blank pages staring back at him, a symbol of the journey he was being urged to embark upon. "Is it really possible to change?" he asked, the question lingering in the air, heavy with vulnerability. The thought of breaking the cycle felt daunting, almost insurmountable. "Absolutely," Dr. Morgan assured him. "Awareness is the first step. By understanding the roots of your family's dynamics, you can begin to rewrite the narrative. Healing starts with acknowledging the past, but it doesn't have to dictate your future." A sliver of hope pierced through the fog of skepticism. Alex's heart raced as he considered the potential of transformation. Yet, the fear of confrontation loomed large. He thought of Lily, the cold distance that had grown between them. Could he bear to face the history that had kept them apart? As Dr. Morgan continued to speak, Alex's defenses wavered slightly. He found himself drawn into her narrative, the weight of generations pressing on his chest, yet offering a glimmer of possibility. The idea of inherited trauma hung in the air, a question waiting to be resolved. Could understanding this legacy truly change the fabric of his family's relationships? In that moment, something shifted. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but for the first time, Alex felt the stirrings of resolve. He was ready to take the plunge, to step into the murky waters of his family's past, hoping to emerge on the other side with clarity and healing. Alex stood quietly in the dimly lit hallway, a quiet observer in a house that felt both familiar and foreign. The murmurs of family gathered in the adjacent room ebbed and flowed like a tide. Their words, heavy with unspoken history, began to seep through the walls like smoke. He strained to listen, curiosity piqued, heart racing with the thrill of eavesdropping. It's always about making her look good, isn't it? He heard Lily's voice rise, laced with bitterness. You never cared about how it made the rest of us feel. What do you want me to say? Grandma Rose's voice, frail yet sharp, cut through the tension. I did what I thought was best. You don't understand the sacrifices I made. Alex felt a jolt in his chest. Sacrifices? The word echoed in his mind, a bell tolling for unacknowledged pain. He edged closer, holding his breath as if his very presence could shatter the moment. You were never there. Lily shot back, each word a bullet. You think I don't know about the secrets, the lies? You think I would have turned out this way if I'd felt loved? The room fell silent, the weight of her accusation hanging like a shroud. Alex pressed his back against the wall, heart thundering in his ears. Secrets? Lies? His mind raced, scrambling for context, for clarity in the swirling fog of family dynamics he had never dared to dissect. Stop it, both of you, came another voice, this one more soothing, yet tinged with an edge of desperation. We're just repeating old patterns. We have to break this cycle. Dr. Morgan. The therapist's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the storm brewing just beyond the door. Alex recalled their last session, the way she had spoken about inherited trauma, how silence could be a breeding ground for further wounds. He clung to the wall, feeling like a ghost in his own home, a bystander to the raw, unfiltered emotions spilling forth. The fractured relationships before him illuminated the broken mirror of their familial legacy. How many times had he sensed this undercurrent of resentment, yet turned a blind eye, preferring the comfort of ignorance? Why can't we just move past it? Grandma Rose's voice trembled, revealing a crack in her stoic facade. The question hung in the air, palpable and heavy. What lay beneath the silence? With a deep breath, Alex felt his resolve shift. He could no longer stand in the shadows, a passive observer of his family's unraveling. The time had come to confront what had long been avoided, to seek the truth that lay buried beneath layers of pain and denial. The broken mirror reflected not just their fractured identities, but a path forward, a chance to reclaim their narrative, to shatter the silence that had haunted them for generations. The evening light filtered through the dusty window, casting soft shadows in the small living room. Alex sat on the edge of the worn couch, his fingers fidgeting with the frayed edges of a family photo album. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. Across from him, Lily shifted nervously, her gaze darting away and back again, like a bird assessing the distance to safety. I don't even know where to start, she finally murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. The tension in the room seemed to thicken, wrapping around them like an old, familiar blanket, one that wasn't warm, but suffocating. Alex looked up, his heart racing. He'd wanted this moment, had longed for it even. But now that it was here, he felt an inexplicable fear. Just say what's on your mind. I'm listening, he replied, his tone more encouraging than he felt. Lily took a deep breath, her chest rising and falling, as if she were preparing to plunge into icy waters. You know, I've always felt like I had to hold everything together, she began, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. Like if I showed any weakness, everything would fall apart. I thought you were stronger than me. that you could handle everything. But I've been struggling too. The confession hung in the air, a fragile thread connecting them. But Alex recoiled slightly. Struggling with what? I thought you were fine, he said, confusion clouding his features. The distance he felt from her was a chasm he didn't know how to cross. Lily's face twisted, a mixture of pain and determination. You don't get it, do you? We've both been hurt by what happened. By the way things have always been in this family. I thought if I acted like I was okay, it would protect you from the truth. But all it did was drive us apart. Her words cut through him, raw and unfiltered, like glass shards against his skin. He could feel the walls he had built around his own emotions beginning to tremble, threatening to crumble. I didn't know you felt that way, he admitted, his voice cracking. The realization hit him like a wave, washing away layers of resentment and anger he had tucked away. Lily met his gaze, a flicker of vulnerability igniting in her eyes. I didn't want you to see me weak. I thought you'd think less of me. But I'm tired of pretending. I want us to be close, to understand each other. And I don't know how to let you in. A silence settled between them, heavy yet pregnant with possibility. Alex felt the warmth of her honesty seep into his own guarded heart. What if I told you that I've been scared too? Scared of our family, scared of what we've become. I felt so alone in all of this. The admission felt like a leap into the unknown, but he was ready to take that risk, to bridge the gap. Lily's expression softened, and for the first time, he saw not just his sister, but a person grappling with her own wounds. Maybe we can help each other, she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. As they spoke, the family photo album remained open on the table, a silent witness to their unfolding emotions. Each image within it, a reminder of the legacy they both shared. A legacy filled with pain, but also threads of love that perhaps could be woven anew. The question lingered unspoken between them. Could this moment of vulnerability, this willingness to share their scars, truly pave the way for understanding? Would it be enough to break the cycle of silence that had held their family captive for so long? In that intimate space, under the fading light, the weight of their shared reality pushed against them. But so did the glimmer of something new. Trust. With each word, they began to dismantle the walls, brick by brick, opening a pathway toward healing that had remained dormant for too long. The warm light of the late afternoon sun filtered through the living room window, casting long shadows across the worn family photo album resting on the coffee table. Alex sat on the edge of the sofa, peering through its pages, each photograph a window into a past he barely understood. The laughter frozen in time felt distant, and yet the underlying tension of unspoken words hung heavy in the air. He could hear the faint murmurs of his family's conversations in the kitchen, punctuated by the occasional burst of laughter. But it felt like a world apart from the turmoil brewing within him. As he turned another page, a black and white photo caught his eye. Grandma Rose, young and vibrant, her expression full of life and hope. The moment felt surreal. How could this woman, who once seemed so capable of love, have unknowingly woven the threads of hurt that now bound their family in silence? Memories flashed before his eyes, whispers of arguments and emotional distance, the echoes of which had shaped his and Lily's sibling relationship. His mind wandered to the stories he'd heard over the years, tales of Grandma Rose's strict upbringing, the unyielding expectations she placed on her children. He could almost hear her voice, a blend of authority and disappointment. ringing in his ears as he recalled snippets of conversations overheard during family gatherings. Your father had to toughen up. Feelings were a luxury we couldn't afford, she would say, her words steeped in a belief that vulnerability was a sign of weakness. Frustration bubbled up within him. Why hadn't they talked about this before? Why did they allow the past to continue overshadowing the present? The question hung in the air, unanswered but charged with urgency. Alex felt the weight of inherited trauma pressing down on him, and for the first time, it began to shift from an abstract concept to something tangible. He glanced at Lily, who had just entered the room, her expression guarded. She caught his eye, and for a fleeting moment, their silence spoke volumes. The emotional distance that had grown between them felt less like an insurmountable chasm and more like a bridge waiting to be crossed. If only they could peel back the layers of hurt and confusion. Maybe they could find healing. Do you think Grandma Rose knew? Alex's voice barely broke the quiet, but it felt like a dare to confront the ghosts of their family history. Did she realize how her actions affected us? Lily hesitated, her brow furrowed as she replayed her own memories. She thought she was protecting us. But protecting us from what? There was a flicker of vulnerability in her tone, a crack in the armor she wore. It felt like an invitation, but also a reminder of the pain they both carried. As they continued to sift through the pages of the album, Alex felt a strange combination of sorrow and clarity. Each photo was a reminder of what was lost, but also of what could be reclaimed, a legacy not entirely defined by pain. The family tales, steeped in trauma, were ripe for reinterpretation, and perhaps, with courage, they could redefine their narrative. Yet, as they turned the final pages, the question lingered in the air, heavy and unresolved. How could the actions of their ancestors continue to shape their present? And was it truly possible to change those ingrained patterns? The warmth of the sunlight contrasted sharply with the cold weight of history pressing down on them. Alex's heart raced as he realized that understanding was the first step. But the journey to healing was perilous and uncertain. The family photo album lay open before them, not just a collection of memories, but a testament to the complex tapestry of love, pain, and the possibility of rebirth. Alex sat cross-legged on the floor of his dimly lit bedroom, the soft glow from a nearby lamp casting a warm hue over the scattered pages of his therapy journal. The scent of aged paper mingled with the faint aroma of lavender from a candle flickering on his desk, creating an intimate cocoon that felt both safe and suffocating. He glanced at the journal, the spine creased from years of reflection, and felt an uneasy flutter in his stomach. Each word he penned danced before his eyes, reminders of moments when he dared to confront the shadows of his family's past. Yet now, as he flipped through the pages, doubt whispered in his mind, drowning out the resolve he had begun to nurture. What if he was simply chasing ghosts? What if this journey was an exercise in futility, a futile attempt to change the unchangeable? He breathed deeply, inhaling the familiar scent of the journal, and felt an urge to close it, to return to the comfort of denial. But as he held the book, he could almost hear the echoes of his therapist, Dr. Morgan, urging him to confront the pain rather than skirt around it. Awareness is the first step to healing, she had said, her voice a soothing balm to his inner turmoil. But how could he truly accept the past without feeling overwhelmed by its weight? He turned to a page marked with a faded, sticky note. The words leapt off the paper. My family's scars run deep, but so do their love and hopes. Alex's heart tightened, a mixture of resentment and understanding stirring within him. The love he'd felt for his family was intertwined with the hurt, creating a tapestry of emotions that he found impossible to untangle. He thought of Lily, her guarded demeanor often mirroring his own, both of them trapped in a cycle of misunderstanding and unvoiced pain. A flicker of vulnerability surged through him as he recalled a recent conversation with his sister. She had finally peeled back the layers, revealing her own struggles with their grandmother's legacy. In that moment, as the walls between them began to crumble, Alex had felt a glimmer of hope. His mind raced back to those fleeting seconds of connection, the breath of vulnerability they had shared, and how it had shaken him to his core. But doubt clawed at him again. Was it enough? Could a few moments of honesty truly mend the fractures? The internal conflict roiled within him like a storm, each question colliding with the next, leaving him adrift in uncertainty. The journal lay heavy in his lap, its pages a testament to his journey, a symbol of self-awareness and progress that now felt like a burden. He could almost see his family's history reflected in its words, a broken mirror of shared experiences and unhealed wounds. If he chose to confront this legacy, to accept his feelings, what would it mean for him? What would it mean for Lily? As he wrestled with these thoughts, the atmosphere in the room shifted. The warmth of the lamp flickered, mirroring his internal struggle, as if the universe itself was urging him toward acceptance. He reached for the journal once more, his fingers brushing across the handwritten lines that chronicled not just pain, but moments of hope and realization. Maybe, he murmured to himself, the words barely escaping his lips. Accepting my feelings and past could lead to something greater. The question lingered in the air, heavy with the promise of possibility. How could he break free from the chains of inherited trauma? And could the act of embracing his vulnerability illuminate the path toward healing? With a newfound determination, he pressed the pen to the page, ready to write the next chapter of his story. One that acknowledged the weight of his family's history, but also the potential for love and understanding to rewrite their legacy. The room was filled with an uneasy silence, punctuated only by the distant sound of rain tapping against the window panes. Grandma Rose sat in her favorite armchair, her frail hands resting on a lap blanket, the fabric frayed at the edges like the memories she was about to unravel. Alex's heart raced as he exchanged glances with Lily, who seemed to shrink into herself, anxiety radiating off her like heat from the radiator. "Everyone," Grandma Rose began, her voice trembling but resolute. "There's something I need to say." The air thickened with tension as everyone leaned in, caught between hope and skepticism. Alex could feel his pulse quicken, a knot of apprehension tightening in his stomach. For years, the family had tiptoed around the unspoken traumas that cast long shadows over their gatherings. This was it, the moment they had all been waiting for, yet dreading. "I have made mistakes," Grandma Rose continued, her gaze steady as it swept over each family member. "I was not the mother I should have been. I let my own fears and pain seep into this family. I see now how my silence and distance shaped you all." Alex felt an odd mixture of emotions course through him, a tumultuous blend of anger, disbelief, and a flicker of something he hadn't expected: relief. The broken mirror hanging on the wall reflected the fractured relationships that had been formed in silence. And now, in this moment of honesty, it felt as if those shards were slowly coming together, revealing a clearer picture of their shared history. "What do you mean, Grandma?" Lily's voice trembled, the confusion evident in her wide eyes. "You always told us to be strong, to hide our feelings. We thought that was how to survive." "I was wrong," Grandma Rose replied, her voice rising slightly with the weight of her admission. I thought strength was in silence, but it's the opposite. Silence has hurt us all. An uncomfortable pause hung in the air, heavy with the unspoken words of decades. Alex felt the walls he had built around his heart begin to crack, the resentment he had held on to slipping through his fingers like sand. Could this admission be the key to finally breaking the cycle of pain that had haunted their family for generations? "Why didn't you tell us this before?" he blurted out, the edge of anger creeping into his tone. "All these years, we've been left to guess and suffer in silence." Grandma Rose looked pained, but there was a flicker of understanding in her eyes. "I was afraid. Afraid of being vulnerable. Afraid that my failures would define you. But they don't. I see that now." Alex felt the tension in the room shift, the air growing slightly lighter, as if a burden was being lifted. Each family member seemed to wrestle with their own emotions, the vulnerability in the room igniting a flicker of hope. A hope that perhaps, just perhaps, this could be the beginning of healing. "I need to understand," Alex said, his voice softening, his heart racing with the weight of the moment. "I don't want to carry this pain anymore. We deserve to break free." Lily reached for his hand, their fingers intertwining. A small gesture, but one that spoke volumes. The broken mirror in the room seemed to shimmer for a moment, offering a glimpse of the possibility that they could reshape their narrative, that they could confront the past together. As Grandma Rose wiped a tear from her cheek, the question lingered in the air, heavy with significance. Could recognition and acceptance of the past truly become the first step toward breaking the cycle of hurt? The rain continued to fall outside, a steady rhythm mirroring the heartbeat of a family on the brink of transformation, straddling the line between pain and healing, uncertainty and hope. The living room was dim, the only light coming from the small lamp in the corner, creating a warm yet intimate atmosphere. Shadows danced on the walls, hinting at the unspoken words that lingered in the air. Alex sat on the edge of the worn couch, his fingers tapping nervously against his knee, while Lily stood near the window, arms crossed tightly over her chest. The tension was palpable, like a taut string ready to snap. "Alex, we can't keep pretending everything is fine." Lily finally broke the silence, her voice steady but laced with an undercurrent of fear. "Every time we gather, I feel this distance between us. It's suffocating." He looked up, meeting her gaze, and for a fleeting moment, he saw the vulnerability behind her defensive posture. "I know," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper, tinged with doubt. "But talking about it, it feels too raw." "It is raw," she shot back, frustration flaring. "But if we don't address it, it'll fester. I can't keep carrying this weight alone." Alex swallowed hard, the knot in his stomach tightening. What if we hurt each other more? What if it doesn't help? He felt his pulse quicken, a mixture of dread and a flicker of hope igniting within him. Lily stepped closer, the distance between them diminishing, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I felt so alone in all of this, Alex. Every family gathering, every smile we put on, it's like a mask. I want to take it off. I want us to be real." As she spoke, Alex noticed the broken mirror hanging on the wall, its shards reflecting fragmented images of them, distorted and incomplete. It felt fitting, symbolizing their fractured relationship. The mirror had been there for years, a relic of their family's history, much like the unspoken pains they carried. "I'm scared, Lily," he finally confessed, the weight of his own fears crashing down. "Scared that if we dig too deep, we might uncover things we can't handle." things that will break us. But isn't that worth the risk? She urged, her voice softening. We've already been broken. What if this is our chance to heal? Together. Alex's heart raced as he considered her words. What if this vulnerable exchange could be the turning point? The possibility of healing hung in the air like a fragile thread, waiting for them to grasp it. I've held on to so much resentment, he admitted, his voice trembling. I thought I was the only one suffering, that it was just my burden to bear. But I see now that we're in this together, whether we want to be or not. Lily nodded, tears spilling down her cheeks. I resent the silence, the secrets we never discuss. It's suffocating. I want to forgive you for the hurt I've felt, but I need you to understand my pain too. He shifted closer, the space between them almost non-existent now. I want to understand, he said, sincerity lacing his tone. I want to hear you. The air around them crackled with emotion, a mix of fear and hope interwoven like a tapestry of their lives. Would this moment of honesty lead to healing, or would it plunge them further into despair? The question lingered, unspoken but heavy, as they both stood on the precipice of change, ready to leap into the unknown together. I'm here, Lily, he said softly, reaching out to wipe away her tears. Let's be real together. Let's change this. And as the shadows of the past loomed around them, they began to forge a path toward understanding, vulnerability acting as both a weapon and a shield, ready to transform their fractured bond into something whole once more. Alex sat across from Dr. Morgan in the cozy, softly lit therapy office, surrounded by shelves lined with books on family dynamics and healing. The warm ambiance contrasted sharply with the turmoil swirling inside him. He flipped through the pages of his therapy journal, its worn cover a testament to his journey so far. Each blank page invited him to confront the pain that had lingered unspoken for so long. I just don't know if it's possible, Alex admitted, his voice barely above a whisper tinged with doubt. How can I change something that's been in my family for generations? It feels like an impossible burden. Dr. Morgan leaned forward, her gaze steady and reassuring. Alex, breaking the cycle of inherited trauma starts with active choice. You have the power to decide how you respond to your family's history. It may feel daunting, but it's about taking conscious steps. But what if my efforts don't matter? Alex challenged, frustration creeping into his tone. What if I end up repeating the same mistakes? It seems so easy to fall back into those patterns. Change is never easy, Dr. Morgan replied firmly, her voice unwavering. But consider this. Every time you choose to confront your fears or have that difficult conversation with Lily, you're rewriting the narrative. You're choosing to break the cycle. Your choices can lead to healing, not just for you, but for future generations. Alex ran a hand through his hair, the weight of her words settling like a heavy fog in the room. He thought of the family gatherings filled with silence, of unspoken resentments that hung thick in the air. The journal lay open on his lap, filled with his reflections. It was a symbol of his journey, a reminder that healing required active participation, not passive acceptance. What if I don't know how to start? He asked, vulnerability creeping into his voice. What if I try and fail? You'll learn, Dr. Morgan replied softly, her eyes warm with understanding. Each conversation, each moment of honesty with yourself and your family is a step forward. It's about progress, not perfection. Allow yourself to feel the uncertainty. It's part of the process. You have the strength to carry this through. As her words settled, the tension in Alex's chest began to ease. He realized that this journey was not just a responsibility, it was an invitation to reshape his family's legacy. The thought was both exhilarating and terrifying. He took a deep breath, feeling the weight of his past and the hope for a different future intertwine within him. "What if I want to do this for my children?" he asked, the question slipping out before he could catch it. "What if I want to give them something better?" A smile broke across Dr. Morgan's face, her expression proud. "That's the first step, Alex. Your desire to create a healthier family dynamic is a powerful motivator. Remember, every choice you make today is a seed for tomorrow. You have the ability to shift the narrative." As the conversation continued, Alex felt the resolve within him strengthen. The journey ahead was uncertain, filled with potential pitfalls and fears. But he understood now that the power to change lay in his hands. The question lingered in the air, however, a haunting echo. How could active choice and responsibility dismantle the cycles of inherited trauma, paving the way for a healthier future? In that moment, he knew he was ready to begin his answer. The living room was dimly lit, the soft glow of candles casting flickering shadows on the walls. A large family photo album lay open on the coffee table, its worn pages revealing faces of laughter and joy from years past. But today, it felt heavy with unsaid words and unresolved pain. Alex stood near the window, peering out at the fading light, his heart pounding in a rhythm of uncertainty. He could sense the tension in the air, thick and palpable, as his family gathered for what they hoped would be a moment of healing. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, her arms wrapped tightly around her knees. She avoided eye contact, her gaze fixed on the album as if it could provide the answers they all sought. Grandma Rose busied herself in the kitchen, the clinking of dishes echoing as she prepared the last of the refreshments. She was a woman of many years, yet today she seemed smaller, almost fragile under the weight of her past. "Are we really doing this?" Lily finally broke the silence, her voice barely above a whisper. There was a tremor in her words, a crack that hinted at the depth of her doubt. Alex took a deep breath, sensing the delicate balance of hope and fear hovering over them. "We have to try," Alex replied, forcing conviction into his tone, though his insides churned with apprehension. The idea of sharing vulnerabilities felt daunting, like standing on the precipice of a vast unknown. "We can't keep pretending everything is fine." As the last of the snacks were set out, Grandma Rose entered the room, her expression a mixture of determination and vulnerability. "I know this isn't easy for any of us," she began, her voice steady yet fraught with emotion. "But I believe that if we share our truths, we can start to mend what's been broken." The room fell silent. Each family member remained tense, the weight of unspoken grievances looming large. Alex's heart raced, echoing 1,000 memories of quiet dinners and forced smiles, the pain of silence suffocating and confusing. He glanced at the album again, flipping its pages with trembling fingers, revealing snapshots of family vacations, birthdays, and milestones. Moments that seemed so distant now. "Let's start with something simple," Alex suggested, his voice stronger now. "Let's each share a memory that makes us feel connected." The words hung in the air, charged with possibility and fear. He could feel the weight of their collective hesitation, like a rubber band stretched to its limit, ready to snap. Lily was the first to respond, her voice breaking as she spoke. "I remember the summer we went camping by the lake. I felt so happy, like we were all together, united." She paused, letting the memory wash over her. But there was always this shadow, an unspoken tension that lingered even then. Alex felt a pang of recognition and guilt. Those moments of laughter were overshadowed by the rifts they all carried. "I remember that too," he said, swallowing hard. "But I also remember the fights that followed, the way we avoided talking about what was really going on." As they shared their memories, the atmosphere began to shift. The air felt lighter, each confession like a thread weaving them closer together. Grandma Rose nodded, her eyes glistening with tears. "I never meant for you to carry my pain," she admitted, her voice trembling. "I tried to protect you, but I see now that my silence only deepened the wounds." The air hummed with a collective understanding, and in that moment, Alex felt a flicker of hope igniting within him. The family photo album lay before them, a tangible artifact of their shared history, binding their stories together. Yet, the question lingered, unaddressed in the fragile silence. How could this collective ritual of forgiveness truly transform their future? As the last rays of sunlight disappeared, the room filled with a soft glow of candles, illuminating the faces of family members willing to confront their truths. The tension still crackled in the air, but something else began to bloom. An earnest desire for connection, for healing, and for a lasting change. In that sacred space, they stood on the threshold of a new beginning, the path ahead uncertain but ripe with possibility.